So it's been a while since I've played No Man's Sky. I played it right at release, and I was one of the people who was actually not disappointed in it. When I saw all the sort of the hype leading up to its release, I kind of understand, just as a game developer, I kind of understood what it was they were building. And when it turned out that they were building that thing, that was fine with me. I wasn't really that worried about it. There were people who felt like, who kind of made a lot of assumptions and felt like it was promising to be a lot more than it was. And those folks, understandably were very frustrated by the initial release. But this team has been an inspiration to us because they have, fighting through all of that sort of, anger and frustration from the audience. They have continued to update and support this game for years, and they have brought it up to a level where it is very close to what people imagined the game was going to be when they first released it. It's still not, it doesn't turn water into wine or anything, but it is a really, really impressive game, especially if you're like me and you're the kind of gamer who really likes to find games that allow them to sort of chill out and play at their own pace. When I was playing Immortals Phoenix Rising, you can see that was my main motivation in playing that game, was just, I want to play a game that's relaxing and that just gives me a lot of little things to do, but I don't necessarily have to think about it that closely. And No Man's Sky does that. I mean, it's just constantly generating for you as you explore new worlds that no one has ever seen before, things to do, places to explore, but none of it is this, bespoke storytelling that you feel like you absolutely, can't miss, that you can't focus on something else. And it's exactly the kind of game that I look for. So I have started a brand new game. Originally, I tried it out on PS4, but now it's on Game Pass. And so I've basically started over again on the Xbox. And when I played it back on PS4, I don't think there was a base building system, for instance. There wasn't a lot of things. There wasn't multiplayer. Like I started this game with my sister, and she and I both settled in adjacent parts of the universe. And so multiplayer was not a thing when the game first came out. So there's a lot to explore here. And because I didn't get very far in the original story, I don't even know what the original story was, or the original sort of mystery you were solving was. I believe it's changed significantly since then. So let me have a look at is it my log that I look at? Yeah, so the next thing that I need to do in the main quest here is to increase my standing with alien life forms by performing missions for them, I believe. If I look down at, where is it that it said? Oh, right here. Alone amidst the stars. Raise your standing with the Korvax is what I'm trying to do. So I was going to pursue this when I played with my friend Christian last night, but I was playing in his area, and he was in a Viking-dominated area, a Viking system. And I'm in a Korvax system. And so I couldn't actually go and find missions to perform for the for the Korvax when I was in a Viking area. But I think I've got a Korvax dominated system, so I'm going to go get in my spaceship and go and find some Korvax missions. So you can see I have made some progress. I don't have the sort of noob bacon hair spaceship. I don't have that anymore. I've got this one that I've called the Laser Bloom. I really like being able to name things in this game, even though it's kind of funny. I know no one, aside from friends of mine, is ever going to get close enough to any of my stuff to see it. Still, just the vague idea that this is a world that's being logged in some central place and everyone is sharing the same data makes naming things feel more real. Like, I named my character in Mass Effect, for instance, but it was just for me. And there's a certain little fun that you get from naming something for yourself, and you can tell people about it and stuff. But naming something that's in a shared database, it's almost like, getting a star officially named for you in the real world. It's never going to affect your life, but there's still something about having something, and it's not like the star cares that you gave it a name, but there's something about having something out in the world that's got a name on it that you've chosen that makes you feel like you're participating in something big in a way that you normally wouldn't. To be or not to be says, this game looks complicated. It does get pretty complicated, but they step you through it one thing at a time. And so I haven't been particularly worried about it. I accidentally flew to the anomaly when I wanted to fly. Where's the... Where are you? There it is. I wanted to fly to the station. The station is what I want. So one thing that's worth taking note of, by the way, is the scale of different speeds. So this planetary system, its scale is still massively reduced from actual space. Like, you can never see two planets at this size at the same time. That's just not a thing. Or three planets. Oh, look at this one. It's enormous. That just doesn't happen. Planets are tiny relative to the space that separates them. But even so, even though they've vastly reduced all of the scales you would actually encounter in real life, look at this. Like, this door, it would take me 50 seconds to get there at idle speed. When I accelerate, it's 4 seconds. And I'll show you more of this. Like, right now, right up against the door of a station is not the time, actually, to share this with you. But, like, you can see the amount of travel time that the game reports to you jumping up and down by orders of magnitude when you use different sort of scales of speed. All right, so this is the station. This is where you do a lot of your trading. This is where you can buy a new ship. Like, I bought this ship by just seeing it land, saying, oh, that's a neat ship, going up and finding out that I could afford it. I'm still pretty early in my game, so there's a lot of stuff I can't afford. But I did go... I harvested a bunch of random stuff while I was playing with my friend last night, so I'm assuming I still have it. Yeah, so when you're playing with a friend, it doesn't... It doesn't save your location, because when you're playing with somebody else, you are probably just across the universe from where you would normally be. Okay, I think that was the only thing I actually wanted to sell here from my inventory. Let's look at my starship inventory. This has got some iridescite, for instance, which is massively, massively valuable. Silver and gold, not that hard to find, actually, so I'm going to sell that. Cobalt, I don't even know what it's for. Oh, making ion batteries. I should hold on to the cobalt. Paraffinium, radon, those seem valuable. Facium, is that poop? I think that might be poop. I'm not sure. Mordite. Death element. Okay, anyway. So I'm here to find some missions. There we go. This guy, right? So, okay, one of my favorite things about this game is the language system. So it doesn't work the way that real foreign languages work. All the languages share the same exact grammar, which is not how things happen in the real world. But that's fine, because what they're doing is having you slowly learn a language over time. And, without actually, like, for instance, creating a language like Klingon and making you actually learn it, which would be too much for a video game. Instead, they're simulating a character learning a language. And so what they do is, every language is English, but with words substituted for alien words. And then as you talk to people, each time you talk to a different person, you learn one word. And so basically you have this experience of going around and talking to people, and over time, being able to slowly understand their speech, which is a great idea. And I'm very impressed with it. All right, so I believe this is a Korvax guy, right? Take a photo of a desert world. Are there desert worlds around here? I don't know. Can I only pick one of these? I don't know anything about missions. This is my first exposure to missions. Kill creatures. Okay, I can murder some creatures. That's not too hard. High capacity vector compressor. I don't even know what that is. Providing for animals. Oh, I can feed creatures. That's actually kind of something I'm interested in doing. Okay, so let's look at providing for animals real quick. Oh, okay, so I need to have 4 standing with the Korvax in order to do this. Oh, I think these icons might be who is providing the missions. So it could be that actually I made a mistake when I was playing with my friend last night, and I thought that there were no Korvax missions. There might well have been Korvax missions at the place I was. I didn't realize that these icons meant something. So this probably means Korvax. So a photo of a desert world. I wonder how hard that would be. Huh. 1 Korvax standing. That is what I'm looking for. Let's accept that. Now the question is, can I get more? Like, for instance, if I wanted a high-capacity vector compressor or nanites, that's simpler. It's like, yeah. Oh, what is this? So this is explorers standing. Interesting. Okay, I don't have I even met the Explorers Guild? Are those the people who run the anomaly, or is that somebody else? Huh. Okay, so let's accept that one too. Okay, it looks like, okay, I can have multiple missions active at once. Well, let's just murder a lot of creatures then and just get everything. Why not? All right, those are the only ones that I'm ranked high enough to do. All right, so let's see if there's anybody here. Yeah, so I haven't met all these people. Oh, I should catch up with the chat real quick. So Fadope points out that there's 2,600 average active players per day on Steam, which is pretty good for a game this old, especially considering, you know, the reaction they had originally. They've really sort of cultivated an audience here, which is great. Okay, so AB Select Start says the top items in the buy menu are very valuable if sold in the right system. Okay, so right now I'm still kind of a homebody. I've only explored like a system or two. I haven't really become sort of a universe explorer to the degree that you're kind of meant to over time in this game, and so I haven't even gotten into like inter-system arbitrage, which is a thing you can get totally into. You can become basically a space trader in this game. Ranithcord says when I played this with my friend, it didn't seem like there was much reason to actually play multiplayer. Like doing the early missions and mining stuff was actively slower because there wasn't enough for both of us nearby. So I think if you're both doing the same missions at the same time, yeah, you can have that problem. When I was playing with my friend, I was really I shouldn't say really advanced. I'm not really advanced. I was beyond the tutorial, and he was in the tutorial, which meant we were interested in different things, and so I would do different stuff on the same planet while he was doing sort of the basic get to learn the game thing, and that could really work. And also, I actually I answered someone on Twitter who was saying, I'm looking for a game where it's fun to sort of hang out with my friends and talk, and the activity, like getting the activity right, keeping each other alive, isn't a stress. We're not really worried while we're playing. We're just hanging out in a neat place. And No Man's Sky might actually fit that bill really well if that's the kind of multiplayer that you're looking for. Oh, so Fadope just compared the language system in this game to Arabesh from Star Wars, which is actually, I don't know much about the Star Wars use of language, but Fadope says it's English but with another alphabet. So yeah, that's perfect. That is exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about. Okay, so let's talk to somebody and show how this works. So, I visited that guy before, met that guy before. There was at least one person here that I had not met before. There you go. Attendant Vuv. So when you talk to a stranger, see, so this guy is, what was this guy called? Was he a Gek? Yeah, he's a Gek. Okay, so you can see I could read some of the words, but not all of them. So I request dialect help. And so I ask him, what does this mean? And it could be, I can decide what category I want to focus on. So like, say, trade. So I just learned the Gek word for customer. So now, anytime a Gek says the word customer to me, it reads in English rather than in Gek. And, I'm not going to do a ton of this because, it is kind of a... it's not the most exciting thing in the world to watch me just talk to a million creatures. But... this is what I do every time I go to a space station. I walk around from character to character, and I do as much of this as I can. I've got the Gek word for market now. All right, so I sold the stuff I meant to sell. Let me get back in my ship. This is my ship, right? Yes, the Laser Bloom. Zarnathium says, I need to get back into this again to see what's new since I last played. Oh, so So I learned 80 words now. So that's how many times I've done that action. Well, also, you can also learn words from knowledge stones that are scattered around planets. So I did a mix of talking to characters and interacting with knowledge stones. The tank said there was a nice couple of exotic craft in there with me. I couldn't tell the difference between an exotic craft and a non-exotic craft. Okay, so let's look at the planets that are available to me. So there is a metallurgic planet there. My base is actually on a paradise planet. What's this one? Yeah, so I named this planet after one of my favorite YouTubers. Go follow Dan Murrell on YouTube. He's a film critic. The reason I named it that was because I was listening to a Dan Murrell video at the time that I discovered the planet and had the opportunity to name it. This is an unknown planet. It could be a desert planet. Let's see. Oh, it's a lava planet. Okay, so I've got a mission to find a desert planet. I'm not actually sure if there is one in this system. I might have to actually leave the system to do it. So we're going to do that before the end of this session. The first thing, though, is I realize that my inventory is actually kind of clogged up right now with random crap that I collected and haven't processed yet. And I want to empty that out before I go exploring on alien worlds and potentially could discover new things that I don't want to miss. So we're going to go back home, but first, let's have a look at the way that distances work in this game. So right now, I'm moving at my normal sort of idle speed. And you can see that it says that, Dan Merle is 44 minutes away from me. If we just sat here like this, and we just, kept talking for a really long time, and we just waited for 44 minutes, I would eventually arrive at this planet at this speed. Now, if I hold the accelerator... oh, wait a minute. That doesn't actually make much of a difference at all. And actually, it looks like okay, so my outpost is actually a little further away. It's actually a full hour away. And when I accelerate, you can see that goes down, but not by much. Pulling the accelerator doesn't make a huge difference to my speed. If I hold B, that's my boost. Now suddenly it drops to 8 minutes, 7 minutes. As I accelerate, you can see it just rockets down. But 7 minutes is still a long time to watch me travel through space. So if I hold my pulse drive buttons, now suddenly it's 17 seconds before I'm going to get there. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Some bad guys scanned me, but I'm hoping Oh no, I'm hoping I shot by fast enough that they're not going to attack me. Are there bad guys? I feel like maybe there's not bad guys. Okay, good. I think I just escaped those bad guys that were scanning me as I went by. So yeah, so I found this paradise planet and found this lovely little spot here with these two lakes. I was like, I want to live here. So this game has fulfilled the dream that many gamers have had for a long, long time of being able to fly from planet to planet and then actually do, re-entry. Smoothly transition through the atmosphere down into a planet, then up through the atmosphere into space again. Being able to actually do that is crazy. Especially, this is nowhere near real-life planetary scale, but it's much closer than any other game I've seen. And that really says something, And honestly, planetary scale, real planetary scale, is so enormous, no one could enjoy it. There's no point in going as big as reality, except to just say you did. That's the only reason to ever do it, is just to be able to say, our game has planets that are as big as real planets. So this is my little place here. So I've built this little base. It's actually larger than it needs to be. Oh, I put a little welcoming message here. It says, don't worry, be happy whenever you come home, to sort of, calm you down. When you come in here, I've actually set up, I haven't invented the fancy refiner yet. I've still just got a portable refiner. But this is my refiner, which allows me to turn things into other things. And so I'm going to refine some of my stuff into useful stuff. So this rusted metal, sometimes you have to pry this off of containers in order to get useful things out of the containers, but you can refine it into ferrite dust, which is actually one of your most basic crafting materials. So I'm going to leave that going for a bit. And I'm going to catch up with the chat. So the tank says, I found a giant 3-stalked plant creature that I named Ochu in honor of Final Fantasy games. I'm not a Final Fantasy player, so I have no idea what that's a reference to, and I probably even said it wrong. But there you go. Let's see here. Fanope says, No Man's Sky looks a lot like Elite Dangerous to me. Never played any of them, though. So Elite Team, I think that Elite Dangerous is mostly in the ship, and No Man's Sky is mostly out of the ship. You use the ship to get from place to place, and you do some space combat here and there and stuff, but it's not the center of the game the way that sort of exploring the surface of planets is. So if this planet were hostile, then stepping inside this building would protect me from the sort of the hazards and stuff like that. But this planet is not hostile; it is paradise, so I don't actually have to spend all my time inside. Zarnathian points out you can go from land to space in Star Citizen, and it's even more realistic with the size of its planets. Yes, but that game is not real, so it doesn't count yet. No Man's Sky came out and is a real game. So I'm making fun of Star Citizen. It's fine. Scott Collins says, just got home. What did I miss? I'm just screwing around in No Man's Sky. I've accepted my first missions, which involve shooting innocent alien creatures. So I'll be doing that in a little bit. I also need to find a desert planet to photograph, and I don't think that there are any desert planets in my system, so I think that's pushing me to actually leave the system and go somewhere else. The reason I'm doing that, though, is I want to raise my standing with the Korvax, which is sort of the robotic alien race here, and I want to do that because it's part of the main quest, main, like, mystery. I'm sort of following the footsteps of another explorer who seems to have picked up that something sinister is going on, and neither of us understands it yet. So I've already scanned and identified all of these creatures. Yeah, Etunziite, because it weighs tons, I suppose. I don't know. What's this one? This one is a Quaxiferium. Quaxiferium. This is the duck of this planet because it's the Quaxiferium. One of my favorite things is because all of these names are randomly generated. I think there is a way that you could apply your own names to things if you want to, but I've only done that in a few cases, like the name of the planet. One thing that I did, though, so I tend to like to build my homes in sort of extreme landscapes, so I built my home up on this cliff before realizing I wanted to build a landing pad, and the landing pad just does not feel like it belongs in this landscape. So each time I come home, I've been using my terrain manipulator to try to build up the land underneath this thing and make it seem like it's physically justifiable in the position that it's in, because right now it does not look that way. Why is this not working? Why can't I build right here? Huh, it's telling me I can't do it. Have I just done too much in this area? Maybe there's a limit to how much I can do. Interesting. Oh, flatten. Ooh, what is flat? Maybe flatten is what I should have used originally to to make space for my landing pad. Anyway, my landing pad is just physically impossible, but whatever. This probably isn't my last base anyway. I'll probably build another base. It's even better somewhere else sometime in the future. And it looks fine from up here, you know, which is where I live, so that's okay. Hey there, Sengatsu. Thanks for joining us. Green Turn, no, usually if I hold and drag the creation tool, it'll just make a bunch of chaotic stuff everywhere. I won't be able to control it. I have to go like one little pulse at a time in order to keep it from being a disaster. Okay, so that process that I set going down here is probably done now. Yep, so I'm going to grab the ferrite dust, stick it in my exosuit, and then let's do something else. Let's grab some... I don't know what some of these things could possibly turn into, but what I wanted to process was the living slime. I've just been collecting this in its most ridiculous, powerful, iteration. So, okay, I'll do that, and then let me store some of the stuff that I just don't need to carry around all the time. Let's see here. Actually, you know what? I might not have that much now that I'm processing that stuff. I think I've already emptied my inventory of most of the things that I would be worried about carrying around. How's my ship inventory? Oh, right. It's still got some fecium. So let's move that into my storage container. Storage container. Mordite goes in the storage container. Cobalt goes in the storage container. Microprocessors, storage container. Oh, interesting. Oh, those look like they're valuable for sale. I should have sold those earlier. Storage container. I'll keep this so that I can sell it later next time I go to a place where we do things like that. And let's go grab that. Let's go grab that living slime. which has now become something else. All right, runaway mold. That's right. Let's grab the runaway mold. Stick that in the storage container. And okay, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to clear that stuff out. So we're going to go hunting for a desert planet, and then we're going to go hunting creatures on that desert planet. Oh, before I do that, one last thing. I need to see how much warp fuel do I have. I forgot what it's called. Oops. So here's my technology, my hyperdrive. Okay, I mean, it's 60%, and so I might want to invest, if I'm to go gallivanting around the galaxy, I might want to invest in some fuel. And I'm trying to remember warp cell. That needs antimatter and antimatter housing. I make antimatter housing out of oxygen and ferrite dust, which I have lots of, and I make antimatter from chromatic metal and condensed carbon. I've got a lot of chromatic metal. I don't have as much condensed carbon, right? I think. Let's look at my exosuit. Oh no, I've got more condensed carbon than I thought. Cool. Then, yeah, let's make ourselves some stuff. So this is how crafting works. Basically, you pick the thing you want, and if you can't make it, it's ghosted, and it tells you what you're missing. Antimatter housing and antimatter. So we'll build some antimatter. We'll build some antimatter housing. Maybe, actually, and then once you've built something, you can actually craft more of it by holding X on it. Let's make 5 of this. And then we will craft warp cell. And this is the actual thing that I insert in my ship in order to refuel its warp drive. Hyperdrive? Hyperdrive. So it's interesting. It's called a warp cell, but it's a hyperdrive. Those are actually two different... What do you call those? Hyperdrive, like types of hyperdrive. Types of FTL. Like, there's all these different types of FTL that science fiction, writers will use to sort of justify how you're able to move faster than light. And warp and hyperdrive are two completely different ones. And so it's interesting that they're using both words for the same system, but whatever. Oh man, I'm falling way behind on the chat here, so... See here, so Squishy Soft says, I heard mixed reviews about No Man's Sky, mostly regarding repetitiveness. Chad and Jeff, what solutions would you have for repetitiveness in procedural environments while keeping asset load manageable? That is an interesting question, right? So, in one sense, the repetitiveness of No Man's Sky is, depending on what you're looking for from the game, that is one of its virtues, is the fact that it's repetitive. Because that means that I don't have to be hyper engaged with each individual moment of the game. I can focus on other things. I can have, a YouTube video going or something like that. Oh, since I'm going to land in an asteroid field, might as well mine these asteroids, which you do by just shooting them, and you automatically get whatever is stored in the asteroid. So, in one sense, repetitiveness is not necessarily a super bad thing. One way that we try to overcome repetitiveness in State of Decay, specifically with the character system, which was the part of the game that I was most responsible for and that it's easiest for me to talk about. I just want to get some distance between me and the planet so that I can look around it and stuff. Is basically to have characters be randomly assembled from a set of pieces, but have each piece try to be very distinctive and interesting. So that so we created like over 1,000 tiny pieces. The trait system, we created over 1,000 tiny pieces, but we made each of those pieces be itself interesting, and then because we're talking about human beings, we all have context to try to draw connections and make more out of tiny pieces than there is. So like you get a character who's like a high school teacher and is also fastidious. You imagine a classroom that's very neat and tidy, and where the kids get in trouble if they put something out of order, and you could sort of imagine a unique identity for this person that goes beyond just what you actually just found right in front of you. And that's the challenge of something like No Man's Sky, because it's all about surveying like really unfamiliar landscapes. you don't have the same kinds of touchstones that let you take very small pieces of information and balloon them out into unique pieces of information just by expanding them in your mind. But then each of those traits though will also have like a description that's in the character's voice, where they sort of are describing themselves, and and so you try to create that sense of I don't know, that rather than finding things that are just completely generated by a computer and the experience is just the stuff that you find is just the same stuff again and again and again. We try to make it so that at least for a while, until you really have seen everything, and so you're like, oh, this again about every single thing, which that's a problem. If you make a finite amount of content, that's always going to be a problem eventually. But the hope is that you don't get there immediately, because so many of the pieces are themselves bespoke content, even though they, together, add up to procedural content. No Man's Sky does not have that luxury to the same degree, because it's, it's creating these far-flung landscapes. That's my thought on it. That basically it sort of does take sort of a mixture of bespoke content and procedural work in order to sort of create that. What you're trying to find really isn't a game that will generate completely unique things all the time that just blow your mind, just as though any other human had made them. That's not possible for AI right now. That's just not a thing you can aspire to, at least not anytime in the immediate future. And so what you're trying to find is actually just sort of a sweet spot between, on one hand, making something completely bespoke that you've just handcrafted, where someone can experience once, have an amazing experience, but never really have that same experience again. Versus the other side, where everything is completely random and you never know what you're going to encounter, but it all feels meaningless. And that's the thing. Things feel repetitive when they feel meaningless, right? They feel repetitive when there's another one and it's different, but the differences don't matter. And so if you're just having something generate random stuff, but the randomness, it doesn't matter. Oh, that's it. Okay, you know what? I'm going in a new direction here that I hadn't actually thought of before. But I'll finish my thought though. That that if you can generate a ton of repetitive stuff, which means you can have a huge volume of things, and people can encounter things that are technically different from anything anyone's encountered before. But if those differences don't matter, then who cares, right? And it sort of becomes very bland. Somewhere in the middle, there's a way you can sort of like augment bespoke content with procedural patterns, or use procedural generation to create more bespoke content more quickly, or use bespoke content to pepper into a largely procedural game so that people can still encounter things that feel like they have meaning while they are largely having a procedural experience. And that the character generator in State of Decay 2, that's the category that's in, is that we're using a lot of bespoke pieces that individually stand out and get your attention, but we're combining them in procedural ways, so everyone has a unique experience, and you can keep having a unique experience over time, but there's enough little bits that feel like they have meaning that you don't feel like it's completely, sort of dry and repetitive. But that idea that what makes something repetitive is the lack of meaning. Like something can be, like the next creature that I encounter in this game is going to be different from every other creature, but it doesn't matter because all creatures fall into like a couple of different categories, and the creatures in those categories are effectively the same as each other. And so there's kind of not a really good reason to care about the visual differences and the fact that they've got a different name and that they animate slightly differently. Like none of that matters. If you actually managed to build a procedural system out of things that matter, where it's like, oh, these subtle differences in how a creature is shaped really matter to how I'm playing the game, then I think the repetition would stop, because each time you encountered a new creature, you would actually have to analyze it and look at it and care about, well, how does this creature work? Oh, okay, it's got this combination of things. I haven't quite encountered that before, and my usual strategy doesn't work. I have to change up my strategy. And I think that's what makes some of the procedurally generated, say, like maps in XCOM, kind of matter, because they do some procedural generation there, and the layout of the map is actually what matters to the game. It's like there are a few things that matter more than the layout of the map, and subtle differences can make a difference. Though again, it's more, you're less focused. That is still sort of the background of the action. It matters to the action, and so you care that it's procedurally generated, but it's not really. I don't know. Yeah, it is taking a back seat to the action that's going on inside that environment. I'm trying to think, is there a really good example of someone taking, things that really matter to gameplay and recombining them in procedural ways. Heat signature. I think heat signature is a really good example of procedurally generated missions where the specific combination of elements of the mission make each mission feel like, oh wow, okay, I have to deal with this in a totally different way than I did before. And one nice thing about that is the fact that it's an indie game. It's a very sort of top-down pixel graphics. Like, they're not trying to create this big sort of like photorealistic world. Not photorealistic, but you know what I mean. Moving in that direction type world, like No Man's Sky. And so rather than spending a lot of their time on just trying to get that part of it right, they just focus on the mechanics. It's a very raw mechanical game, and I think it works there. RimWorld is another example of one where the procedural generation matters. Though again, that is another one where it's like, well, it does eventually kind of boil down to the same basic kinds of scenarios. Like, yeah, because a particular map is either it's a desert, or it's Arctic, or it's swampy, or it's something. And when you're in one of those places, the differences between them aren't that huge. The thing that I think really makes a difference in a procedurally generated experience is if you've got multiple things that can be matched up in different combinatoric ways, and the resulting combined thing is interesting in a way that each of the individual pieces is not. And so I think like a version of RimWorld where there were multiple factors in a biome that could really sort of clash with each other and present a unique challenge in a particular map that you couldn't really find anywhere else on the planet, that I think could make a really huge difference to sort of making each experience feel different, rather than saying, okay, well, I'm going to do an Arctic run now, and it's going to be like other Arctic runs with subtle differences in the map. And it's still being interesting because each map is different in subtle ways, but it's not different in dramatic ways. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just I've gone way into this like rabbit hole of my own thoughts, and I have not been reading the chat. I apologize. So Zarnathium said all games have levels of repetitiveness. It's just what you're into. It is just what you are into if you overlook it. Like, I see people say a game like this is repetitive, but then go off and play a Battle Royale game or a MOBA where you do the same thing over and over again, and it's way more repetitive. That's true, yeah. So that is a really good way, Zarnathium, to sort of highlight what I'm saying, is that, in a game like Fortnite or a MOBA, what matters to you in the game is what the other player does, right? And that's different every single time. And so even though the map is the same and the rules are the same and you can even land in the same places, what you care about is the other player's actions, and you can't predict those. And so I think that, when a game is trying to rely on procedural content, because you can just rely on procedural content as a way to make your game bigger, without necessarily making it more interesting. Because that does matter too. Size does matter when it comes to games. When people buy something, they want it to be big. And so that's one way you could, for instance, the city in Spider-Man. Most of that city is procedurally generated, not at runtime, but while they're building it. A lot of what made it possible to make a city that huge was the fact they were leaning on procedural generation to make things happen faster for them. And so they could make a lot more with using the art staff that they had. They could make a lot more than they could have if the artist had to place every single window on every single building. So going for size with procedural content is one thing. But if what you're looking for specifically is to use procedural content to make your game unpredictable, unique, and interesting at all times, then you have to zero in on what is the thing that is the center of the experience. What is the thing that needs to be interesting? And in the case of multiplayer games, it's usually what the other players are going to do. And so. But yeah, so you need to figure out what part of this game, what is the interesting challenge? What's the interesting problem the player is trying to solve? And can we make that challenge, that particular part of the game, that sort of nugget at the center of the game, if that is different every time, and if that has a wide range of combinatorics that can sort of feed into it and make it unique, then you've sort of nailed, this is the thing that you need to make procedural in order to use procedural generation to make your game actually be, to use it for replayability, to use it for, making the game continuously interesting over an infinite period of time. So SquishySoft says, I've noticed a lot of sandbox games recently having a lot of downtime. We spend a lot of time in a car, ship, horses, modes of transportation. I gather there has to be some sort of appeal to it, but it's one of my pet peeves. For example, taking 2 to 52 minutes to get to where you're going. It's something that feels to me like added game padding and not content. Am I wrong? And if so, what's the draw to transportation in games like this and other open world games? So while I was talking through this like long, complicated thing, I was deliberately traveling very, very slowly. This game does actually let you skip a lot of that travel time and brings it all, basically brings any travel you want to do in this game can be brought under a minute by just spending the right fuel and moving at the right speed. But other folks in the chat suggested things like, there could be hidden loading times sometimes. Like the elevators in Mass Effect 1, for instance, were hiding loading times, and that's why the elevator trips were so long. I imagine that when they developed that, they were not planning for the load times to be as long as they were, and maybe expected that those elevator rides wouldn't be quite as lengthy. By the way, I love being able to get this close to a ringed planet. I don't actually know what it's like to travel through the ring itself. So while we're talking, I'm going to try to get close to that ring and see what it's like. But yeah, so I think, like, because people want different things from games... Oh, I know what the ring's made out of! Actually, I don't think this is the ring. I think this is just one of many random asteroid fields. Which, asteroid fields do not look like this in the real world, but that's fine. I want a bunch of targets to shoot, and so that's what I'm getting out of this. So sometimes it could be that, but like I said, people have different motivations for playing games, and like for me, a lot of the times, what I'm looking for is just something interesting to do with my hands and my eyes while I'm listening to something or while I'm thinking about something else, and so that makes games like this, where there is a lot of just sort of wandering around and exploring. That's actually kind of fun for me. That's like a draw for a game like this, and so games where I can just sort of say, where the game actually says, hey, what this game is really about, like Immortals Phoenix Rising was great about this. That game basically told me what this game is about is wandering around this world and doing side content that doesn't really matter to the story. And I was like, thank you. I am here for this. This is exactly what I want. And I got a lot out of it. So it could just be that you are not the audience for a game that has a lot of that sort of between time exploration. And that there's other players out there for whom that's exactly what they're looking for from a game. And when they see that, it actually makes them happier. Oh no. Hostile subspace scan. No. Actually, it's fine. I think most of the combat encounters you have right now are not very hard. Oh, they want my salvage data. They want my precious bodily fluids, but they can't have them. Where are you? Oh, gosh. Okay. No, you come here. Come here. Come here. I like that they give ships contrails so that I can find them. Because otherwise it'd be very hard to track these guys down. Where did this guy go? Oh, he changed direction. Oh, clever girl. Okay. Oh, it looks like we've got some people helping me out here. Maybe the station has got its own defenders. So if somebody tries to pirate me this close to the station, they're idiots. Is that everybody? Okay, cool. Cool. Oh, hey, I just increased my standing with the Korvax by defeating these pirates. So I really only need to increase my standing with them again one time, which means finding this desert planet. So here's my problem. I forgot how to warp. I'm not sure how this is done, so I'm gonna need to figure this out. So Voodoo Roll just showed up and says, I love No Man's Sky, almost as much as a certain Undead Labs game. Well, thank you very much for liking my game. But yeah, No Man's Sky is pretty impressive. If you're in a certain kind of mood, like I don't play this game because I want to be engaged by a story. I play this game because I want to chill for a while after work, for instance. That's kind of what this game is for me. Okay, so I need to go somewhere else. It's not with that button. There's not a... Does somebody remember how this is done? I've forgotten the buttons. Do I need to look it up? Because I've only warped like once or twice, and it was when I was being taught it in the tutorial, and there were words on the screen telling me how to do it. Is it like... Oh, galaxy map. There we go. Down on the D-pad, galaxy map. There are so many like little interfaces that you need to unlock in this game. Okay, so I think that Lazran 1 was where I started. Man, navigating this art, and then Grinbui Une, Grinbui Une 7 is my current location, and it seems like a Konkoko. A Konkoko is where I want to go. It says deselect current system. Okay, there we go. Oh, ooh. Why is there does this mean that this is where I want to go in order to take the picture I need to take? Okay, so I just set a waypoint there. Is it telling me, does this little marker icon on a Konkoko mean that it's part of the path to get there? Let me unset the waypoint. No, it doesn't. Can I just warp to this random system? Okay, it looks like there is a subtle line drawn between where I am and where I'm going. But maybe I'm wrong. Like, maybe a Konkoko, maybe this, like, icon means that... because I'm new to this game, I don't know what to expect from the icons. Okay, you know what? I'm going to deselect this system because I actually think that the icon on a Konkoko, I can't say the name of this system. I think that Korvax icon, well, maybe it just means it's a Korvax dominated world, not that I have a Korvax mission there. Oh, I'm so confused. Oh, AB Select Start says this part of the game could really use a cursor. Yeah, I'm kind of starting to feel the same way. Okay, so going back to the talk we were having about procedural generation, Greetings Car says that Due Process is a game with a Counter-Strike-like bomb game mode, but they wanted players to always make a new plan instead of just settling into the map metagaming. So they solved that with generating plus manually editing a lot of maps, and they're releasing a bunch every week. Okay, yeah, so I think there's a lot of games that, for instance, like use they'll have bespoke maps, but they'll have enough of them that you can't just get used to them all the time, and they'll change up elements inside the map so you can't use them the same way every time. Like, for instance, if you're doing a bomb planting game, but you have to plant the bomb in a different room every single time, you could use that same map like 8 different times, and each time, because you have to place the bomb in a different place, it could be different. You know, it could be a different experience. Your strategy would have to change. And so you could there's lots of different ways you can sort of reuse the same map. And then if you come up, like you were saying, Greetings, Scar, if you come up with a fast enough way to generate content, you can just keep adding new content. And that's certainly one way to solve it. All right, yeah. So the take says No Man's Sky definitely does a good job of making the action arcadey. Yeah, there's nothing about they're trying to solve a similar problem to what we have to solve with State of Decay, which is if any one part of the game gets too complicated, then the game overall gets overbalanced and it's too hard to play. Like when you have a game that has this many different systems going on at the same time, each system has to be very simple and can't require a ton of mastery in order to understand it and get into it. So that's why the combat and stuff like in this game is very simple, because if they made it really complicated, it would put you off if you're here because you love something else, or it would just be like, because combat is one of many different things you can do, it means it happens infrequently enough that that you could lose your skills in between sessions. Okay, so I'm going to warp here because it's got a little icon on it. Here goes my ship. And if it turns out that actually I did want to chase that camera down, then we'll find out by coming here and finding out there's no desert world. Okay, this is First Contact, and what is this red thing? Atlas interface? Okay, I don't know what this is. I came here to look for a desert world. Before we do that, let's go see what this is. I have received some warnings in the story stuff about red scary things, so this could be a scary thing that I'm going inside. I'm really not sure. Okay. Should I talk to the big red crystal? Is that what I do here? What are you? I've learned the Atlas word for traveler. Okay. This kind of reminds me of Control a little bit. It's having big pulsating things I don't understand. Ooh, a warp cell. Okay, cool. Maybe I didn't need to craft as many of those. Quol melu labe trani, yipe lab, ufo rubat hate duk plen. Wolfor ku traveler. The Atlas called me to this interface, and yet its purpose remains unclear. It demands worship. It demands obedience. It welcomes me. It knows what I am, and it offers the gift of true understanding. But why? Why does such power and knowledge crave submission? It knows my thoughts before I know them myself. It knows what I will do. The Atlas asks me to follow its path. I don't know. I mean, it kind of demands worship. Let's go for it. Yes. I will accept this. The sky is deep and full of wonders, and the path to enlightenment opens to me. Captured nanode. Atlas seed containing zonally shifted quasi-stellar substrate. Warning, do not allow Matrix to commune with this dimensional space. What are you talking about? Okay. Okay, I guess I've done a thing. I don't know, maybe this has affected my fate eternally. Okay, the tank says that I'm slightly ahead of them story-wise. They're still trying to put out signal boosters. Yeah, you're real close to where I am in the story. Fluffy Insanity Art says, that part of the quest is really confusing. Yeah, I'm not surprised. So, okay, Voodoo Roll says that Atlas is one of the main two storylines. So, I assume the other storyline is the one I've already been following, where I'm sort of following the footsteps of this other traveler. Okay, so there's a space station here, which seems valuable. Okay, so this is an incandescent planet. That sounds cool. What other planets are there? What's this one? What are you? Infected Dust Bowl? Is that like a desert planet? I don't know. What other... Are there any other planets around here? I don't know. How will I know when I've looked every direction? Okay, what about this guy? What is this? Desert planet. Okay, so I'm fascinated by the iridescent planet, but the desert planet is why I'm here. But you know what? It has been actually about an hour since we got started. So rather than just continuing right now, let's break this up a little bit by ending this video. Okay, so we're going to end this YouTube video. You can subscribe, you can do all that stuff, but on the stream live, I'm going to continue and explore this desert world and figure out what I can about it. Probably murder some alien creatures.